You know, the first song that y'all sang, we sang, I didn't really sing, I'll be honest. The microphone was turned on, and I'm always afraid that if they don't mute me and you hear me, you're gone. The Lord says, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. I make a painful noise unto the Lord. So, but the chorus, nothing is too difficult for what's the chorus say? Nothing is too difficult for thee. You know the way that I live that though? Nothing is too difficult for me. If I'm dead straight honest with you, I live that. I'll sing one, but I live the other. It's one of my challenges. Guys, I'm just trying to be honest with you. I'm not a fancy, I'm just kind of a straightforward guy. When I'm reading the lyrics and everything, it's one of those things that I'm always like, am I living that? Or am I just singing it? Because it's easy to sing the lyrics. It's not so easy to live them many times. Got some front rowers here. Praise God, man. Did somebody pay you to move up front? How many were here last night? And you came back? Man. Let me get a real quick test on audio. We want to get a quick test on the audio. Let me try this. You're not supposed to see this, but you're going to see it for a second. Let me get a quick test on the audio. Where is something? Here we go. Yep, we got audio. All right. So, by the way, if you've got questions, feel free to talk with us. I'm telling you right now that all three of us are here. It's if you want to write them down, that's great as well. But we are more than happy to talk with you in between sessions, and we're here to serve. I know I am. So don't feel like you have to wait. If you want to talk, great. If you want to write it down and put it back there, that's cool as well. One of the things that I'm seeing really, really big in our culture today are UFOs. And so bunny trail here, ADD, all right. I did find a video that I'm kind of struggling with this one, so maybe you guys can help me with it. Now watch this. You see that right there? That's the airplane, and this is, I don't know. I was an air traffic controller for over 24 years, so I find this interesting because now watch this. See how this thing is moving? Now watch. And I was thinking maybe it was an insect. I was thinking that maybe it was, but it's behind the house, so it's got to be something big because watch, it's going to come out again. There's the plane, and here this is. It hovers, it shoots down. Is it lens flare? It can't be an insect. I was thinking like maybe a dragonfly, but a dragonfly wouldn't show up. Watch, it's going to shoot up top. Mission accomplished. You're awake now, aren't you? All right. You know, I joked about last night that I was a son of a professional wrestler, but it's the truth. I found one of my old math scores. I'm not the guy that you want me to answer questions on math. Name the quadrilateral. Man, that was so simple. You got Bob, you got Sam, you got Tedison, you got Kate. I mean, and this one was really, really easy. Find X. Duh. Hello. I mean, come on, make it a little bit more difficult, please. Yeah. Now you know why I've seen the tops of so many teachers' heads in my day. This is my family. Please pray for us. This is my wife. We've been married 34 years now. Good night. 34 years. My son, 31, daughter, 32. My son is married to a young lady from South Africa. My wife is Japanese. We're pretty international. My son-in-law, he's a Michigander. I don't know how he snuck in there, but we got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy in the group. So, but then I got 4 grandchildren. And pray for my wife, honestly. Not a, oh, we're so bad. No, man, we are blessed. We live within 10 minutes of our grandchildren. My wife babysits 3 days a week, which is why she doesn't travel with me, because it came down to go with Carl, stay with the grandkids. I lost, okay? And rightfully so. What a blessing, what a privilege it is to have our children that close and our grandchildren that close. But her parents live with us, and they're in their 80s. And so that's a full-time ministry, guys. I mean, it truly is, with all the medical and all that sort of a thing. And trust me, they've lived with us for 28 years, 10 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. You think I'm joking? No, it's been a blessing. It's been an absolute blessing to have them there, but that is full-time ministry. So my wife is honestly the one that does the hard work. I am blessed. I get to do what I love. I get to travel. I get to step on toes. I get to go after the younger generation and hopefully get them fired up. But pray for my wife. Pray for us. I'd appreciate it. The talk that I did last night, if you don't get the DVD from the church here, it's a green one out there called Answers to Difficult Issues. Okay. And the one that I'm doing right now is called Human Evolution. Duh. Pretty simple. And I brought one in this morning. And I hope I don't come across as a salesperson. I'm really not. Look, it's all donation. If you can help us, please help us. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It takes money to produce these things and get them out there. So if you can help us with that, do it. If you can't and you have a legitimate need and you want the material, take it. That's my heart. But my son does a talk called Game Over and is dealing with video games. Because right now, I think video games are one of the biggest tools that are being used to reach a generation. And most parents don't have a clue what's going on in that realm. So my son went through some of the top selling video games and he found the spiritual messages. Forget about sex and violence. That's a given. Okay. But he goes through how is God, how is Jesus, how's the Bible, and how are Christians depicted in some of the top selling video games. Because parents, we are not ones that say, throw it all out. If you choose to do that, that's between you and the Lord. I don't do that personally. Now, there are some things that I do, but I try and teach my children how to critically evaluate and my grandchildren how to critically evaluate what they're letting in. Because we have to teach them how to think and not what to think. And so my son is the one that did this. And it's powerful. If you got some gamers, you might want to do that. And let me give you a website. His website, by the way, is called Inja, I-N-J-A. Instead of ninja, it's Inja. Ninja without the N. Inja Game stands for It's Not Just a Game. InjaGame.com. He's got a number of videos up there. It's all free stuff up on there, trying to educate parents and reach gamers. Okay? Very important ministry. Consider coming down down to Glendive, Montana with me, July 18 next year. We're digging dinosaur bones. Come on down. It's going to be fun. This is a commercial. A product is actually being advertised here. For people that tell me that, evolution doesn't matter, we shouldn't care about that, just go preach the gospel, I beg to differ because your children are going to get exposed to this stuff. I've seen it, I'm telling you, literally on Wendy's wrappers, McDonald's wrappers, on almost anything you can think of. This is a beer commercial. Now, all I did was reverse it. It's a Guinness beer commercial. And in the beer commercial, they start off with these three guys that you see here, and they take a drink of a Guinness beer, then they devolve back to the point that they're a mud skipper. Now, can I make an extremely important point to you this morning? If you drink anything that makes you devolve to the point that you're like a mud skipper, you ought not to drink it. Trust me. Trust me, okay? But guys, that's how prevalent this message of human evolution is. It's everywhere. So you and I don't need to run and hide from it. We need to deal with it. So I call this, what about human evolution? Do we need to be afraid of it? I say we don't. I say we just go and deal with it. There's two ways that we got everything that we see. Number one, God said. That needs to become the rallying cry of every Christian. God said that in the beginning he created the heaven and the earth. And by the way, that little simple phrase, God said, we run by that way too easily. That little phrase there, God said, do you know what it's indicating? It is indicating that this is not a good book. This is not just spiritual and moral issues. You see, we live in a world where this younger generation, and this is what I'll hit on Sunday tomorrow, they spend 900 hours a year in a school system that teaches them to think like the world. All right? And then we in the church try and come along and reach a generation that's spending 900 hours a year in a school system being taught to think like the world, which is then reinforced by 1,064 hours of television, which is then reinforced with 936 hours a year of video games, which is then reinforced with, do you get the picture? So this is what's coming after our children, teaching them to think in a very specific way, and then we come along and we bring out a Bible and they're looking at that saying, well, that's just old and outdated. I mean, come on. God, we know what you wrote, but let us tell you what you meant. Because you didn't quite understand science and you don't quite understand. Things have changed. God, I know you said you created in 6 days and rested one, but those days can't be real days. They have to be long periods of time because science has proven. God, we know you said that we all go back to one man and one woman, but you didn't quite understand science because science has proven that ape-like ancestry evolved into the black man in Africa, and some of those black folks ate fish, got smart, moved north, and turned white. You laugh. That's exactly what it teaches. I'll show you the videos. When I do my talk on racism, I show that. God, we know what you wrote, that marriage is between a man and a woman. Hello? Is that in our culture today? We know that the proper place for sex, God, is within marriage because, no, if you lose the history that is given to us in the Word of God, you're going to lose the morality. And for too long, we've been trying to impose a Christian morality on a culture that does not understand it because they don't understand the biblical history. And one of the tools, if we're just dead straight honest, that is being used to get a generation to not trust his history is what we're talking about here. God said the Bible doesn't claim to be a good book. It claims to be the Word of God. Over 3,000 times it claims to be the Word of God. That little simple phrase there is used, God said, 46 times. And when somebody wants to tell me that Genesis isn't important, and I hear it all the time, oh, that's old and outdated. Excuse me. Of those 46 times that God said is used, 28 of them take place in Genesis. Genesis is written as actual historical accounts. Jesus Christ, our master, our rabbi, if you claim to be a Christian, he's our master, he's our rabbi. He quotes Genesis 25 times. And every time he quotes Genesis, he quotes it as real history. Who do we think we are to say, God, I know what you wrote, but you didn't quite understand, and so let us help you out? That's what I see going on in the church and in the Christian schools many times. Look, you disagree with me? Show me here why I'm wrong, and I will thank you. Because as a Christian, this is our foundation. Not what man thinks or anybody else said. What did God say? He said that he created us in his image. Young people, hear my heart. Suicide is the number 3 killer of the teenagers in our country. This is America, the most Christian nation on the planet, and suicide's the number 3 killer of our teenagers. Come with me to Tanzania, Africa. I was there last year. Tanzania, Africa, as you're driving through Dar es Salaam, every stop sign, every stoplight you come to, there are one-legged men on crutches begging. Why so many one-legged men? And I'm not talking one, I'm talking multiple. Why? As we were driving, the guy was looking at me and he was watching me. And after 30 minutes, he finally said, "You're wondering why there's so many one-legged men?" Yeah, I was kind of wondering that. What do you think? War, and they're stepping on landmines. No. In Dar es Salaam, the capital city of Tanzania, Africa, there are too many motorcycle riders. So if you're a male and you're riding a motorcycle and you have an accident and break your leg, they don't set your leg, they amputate your leg so that you can't ride a motorcycle anymore. Suicide is not the number 3 killer of their teenagers. How in the world could America, the quote-unquote most Christian nation on the planet, have suicide as the number 3 killer of our teenagers? You know why? In my humble opinion, because we've allowed the world to lie to them and tell them that their value is based on how pretty are you, how smart are you, how talented are you, what are the gifts that you bring to the plate, and if you don't have the gifts, then you don't measure up, and where's your value? Guys, God said you're made in his image. Think about this. We are created in the image of God. Ladies, young ladies, please hear me. Please. This is not just about creation evolution. This is about a philosophy that's lying to your generation, that's telling you that your value is based on what you bring to the plate. And if you think that your value is based on how pretty you are, how well you look compared to a billboard, I'm telling you right now, you will never measure up. You can't. It's impossible. Because what you see on billboards, what you see in magazines doesn't exist. It's a lie. Young lady comes in, sits down. They start doing the makeup. They do the hair. They take the photographs. Then they take the photographs and they put them on the computer. Young men, you think your value is based on how well you can throw a ball, catch a ball, kick a ball? What happens when you can't throw a ball, catch a ball, kick a ball anymore? I used to be an athlete. I know that's hard to believe, but I was. I can't hardly raise my right arm above my head anymore. I got a partially torn rotator cuff. And I'm not getting cut on until I can't raise the arm. So I'm not valuable anymore because I can't throw a ball anymore? No, because my value is based in this. we were created in the image of God. We were fearfully, wonderfully made. We were literally knit together in our mother's womb. God breathed life into us. He created us in his image, and he loved us while we were spitting on him enough to come and die on a cross for us. You want value? There's nothing on this planet that can give you more value than that. This is a lie. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but what you see on billboards is a far cry from what you see in the real world. Do not be deceived. We have a generation that has been totally deceived in where their value comes from, and if you can't measure up, then what are your options? Plastic surgery, $1 billion a year we spend in our country, America, the most Christian nation on the planet, $1 billion a year for plastic surgery to cut something off, to suck something out, to stuff something in, to look like what doesn't even exist. They've got a wrong value. This is an important issue. Got nothing to do with bones, got everything to do with why you believe who you are and where your value comes from. Because there is that other history. And if this history is true, where does your value come from? If over the course of 14 billion years, hydrogen gas transformed itself into everything that we see, where does your value come from? How pretty are you? How smart are you? How talented are you? If there is no God that created you in his image, welcome to America, 2016. And you and I are trying to go out and reach a generation that has been taught to think like the world by using a message that they don't understand. But that's tomorrow. You see, when the world tells us that we're created by slow, gradual processes over millions of years, it's having a major impact. Take a listen. A guy here, Mr. Crottenmaker, he said this in a USA Today article. He said this: do religious believers really want the truth of their faith wagered on an attempt to prove that countless scientists have somehow botched the reading of the fossil record? I am totally willing to take that on, yes. Why? Not because I heard somebody talk about it, but because I got into the books and started studying for myself. And if a guy like me can study and understand this stuff, you can. I'm praying that this is a catalyst to get you to start studying for yourself. I don't want you to regurgitate what you hear me say. I want you to go study for yourself to have answers. He continues on to say this: creationists ultimately are not interested in science. Look, I am a creationist. I was not born one, and I was not raised one. Remember, my dad was the professional wrestler. I didn't come to the Lord till I was 26. My first Sunday school teacher in a Baptist church when I was 26 taught me, you take evolution, you put it in the Bible, God used it, God directed it. That's all I knew. I was 28 when somebody challenged me to read the Word of God and study for myself. That's why I'm challenging you to go look for yourself. Because that's when good things happen, is when you study for yourself and quit regurgitating what you heard somebody else say. Not interested in science? Parents, one of the best tools I can put in your hand is totally free. It's on the internet. It's an 1828 dictionary. Type in 1828 dictionary. It will come up. Type in the word science in an 1828 dictionary, and then look at the definition for science in a modern day dictionary. And the only reason he can say that we do not, Christians and creationists, do not believe in science, they have redefined the term. What gives them the right to redefine the term? You know what gives them the right? 400,000 churches across the nation of America filled with people who on Sunday come in here and play a good game of hug and rub and all that sort of a thing, and then we walk out the door and we disappear into the culture. That's what gives them the right. I'm not trying to be mean, but we have got to step up. By our silence, there's a vacuum that's been created. We care deeply about science. Go read the definition for science. He continues on, and setting aside preconceptions and following trails. Oh, by the way, we're not interested in science? Go back and study the founders of almost every branch of science. You know what you're going to find? You're going to find Christians. You're going to find creationists, because they said, if you want to understand the creator, study the creation. Scientific method originated in the Christian mindset. It did not originate in any other mindset. It originated because they said, if you want to understand creator, study creation, and let's come up with a process to do it by. Christians invented that. We care deeply about science. And setting aside, we don't want to set aside our preconceptions and follow trails of observable evidence to logical, testable conclusions. Oh, that's what we're going to do. To the best of my ability, I'm not using any more Christian creationist stuff. We're going to set aside our preconceived ideas, follow the evidence, and when we do that, is the evidence going to lead us to walking with cavemen, Or is it going to lead us to in the beginning God? Well, that's a decision that I'm going to leave in your hands. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm going to challenge you to think. Come with me to the London Museum of Natural History. I told you I love leading tours through here. This is the Hall of Human Origins. That hall right there is half as wide as your sanctuary and maybe 1.5 times. Maybe 1.5 times. I lead tours through there when I go over there. I train people to lead tours through there. In that whole museum, there's one thing that we have to deal with. And this is Charlie D's backyard. If there's any place that should have the best evidence for evolution, don't you think Charlie D's temple should have it? And it is a temple of secular humanism. It's a temple. Well, let's start with something a little more recent. Did you hear about the link? Ida. Oh, 2009. Big news. May of 2009. Man, the airwaves got lit up. The newspapers and articles. Remember Ida? I mean, she got her picture on Google. Hey, you are big time if you get your picture on Google, all right? And the headlines were absolutely terrifying. Missing link found. Oh, what are we going to do? They found the missing link. Scientists unveil the missing link in evolution. Carl, give it up and go home. We have the link. By the way, that was the name of the TV show, The Link, which they also created a book that came out at the same time as the TV show. Do you know what the title of the book was? The Link, yeah. And you could even buy a t-shirt. You know what the t-shirt said? Yeah, The Link, you heard about it. By the way, this is the website. Do you know what the URL is for the website? No, that was already taken. It's actually revealingthelink.com, okay? Now, why would I do that to you? Because I want you to remember it, and I want you to take it, and I want you to go study and see for yourself. By the way, another website that you want to go look at if you want to see if what I'm... Guys, you got to understand this. This younger generation, they're different. I'm up here talking. They're on the phone. They're on an iPad checking to see if what I'm saying is right or not. That's reality, okay? That's the way it is. I want you to also go to the David Koch, K-O-C-H, Hall of Human Origins. Look it up. I can't tell you the URL off the top of my head, but David Koch, Hall of Human Origins, because that is the latest and greatest and most up-to-datest exhibit on human evolution that you're going to find. And I don't have time to go through all of them. I can, though. And by the way, high schoolers, college age, tonight, if you want to go through it with me tonight when we're eating pizza, let's do it. I'm not afraid of it. I love it. Okay? So, go check it out for yourself. And here's what you're going to find when you go to the website. I mean, this was big news. This fossil will probably be pictured in all the textbooks for the next 100 years. When our results are published, it will be just like an asteroid hitting the Earth. Is this big? Oh, brother, this is huge. This fossil rewrites our understanding of the evolution of primates. So let's go take a look at some of the teaching that's on there. Push on this really cool little button here from Ida to us, and then we get the great chart. Oh, looky there. There's the chart, Carl. You start here, and given enough time, right circumstances, you get people. By the way, I don't have time to go deep in this, but let me give you one little example. I can go through all 18 of the individuals that are in the Smithsonian, David Koch, Hall of Human Origins. I can go through all 18 of them with you if you want to give me 3.5 hours of your life. I don't think you want to do it this morning, but I'll do it if you want. But this one right here is interesting. I mean, this was a big one. Ramapithecus. Ooh. When I was a young man, I remember this one clearly. I went back and looked at my book, and there was Ramapithecus. And it's all over the place. Ramapithecus. Oh, looky there. Evolving into a human being. Well, guess I just found this one last week, which is why I brought it in. Just found this article. During the 1980s, it was commonly believed that the common ancestor of apes and hominids was a late Miocene ape living 5 to 10 million years ago. In 1932, a candidate fossil, an 8 million year old jaw with teeth. It was called Ramapithecus after the Hindu deity of Rama. However, these fossils have never been found in Africa, and more complete fossils discovered in 1981 made it clear that Ramapithecus is in fact closely related to the orangutan. So that's not in our evolutionary lineage. By the way, I'm skipping another one that is 3 pieces of a jaw. I'm skipping another one that's 17 bone fragments, and I'm skipping another one that's 200 bone fragments. This is the evidence that proves that we evolved from an ape-like ancestor, only if you don't go study deeply. So, let's go back here though, because we got to focus on Ida. There she is. She is the link between humans and apes. What are we going to do? Have you ever heard of David Attenborough? David Attenborough he has got one of the most amazing voices ever. I wish I had the voice like David Attenborough. I really do. Anything coming out of England on the BBC dealing with human evolution, David Attenborough is in it because of his voice. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Now people can say, okay, you say we're primates, like monkeys and apes, and that we came from very simple, generalized mammals. Show us the link. The link, they would have said, until now, is missing. Well, it is no longer missing.
Well, thanks for coming this morning. It's been great to be with you, but I think we're going to have to finish because Sir David has spoken, and that's the way it is. Sorry, I don't operate like that. Love his voice, but I'm not going to run from the teaching. By the way, do you know that Sir David just made a very startling admission to you and I? Very startling admission. Evolution is a fact, you fundamentalist hicks. Everybody knows it. Really? Take a look at what he just said. The link they would have said until now is missing. Well, it is no longer missing. What does that mean about all of the other links they've been jamming down our throat for the last 150 years? Up until now, we could say they were missing. We can't say that anymore because now we have the link. We have Ida. Get rid of Ida, what's left? 3 pieces of a jaw, 17 bone fragments, 200 bone fragments, teeth, jaw. You see what I'm saying? That's a very startling admission. Keep that in mind because we're going to try and get to the second individual here this morning. Now, 2-hour program. Listen, as this next clip is a montage. You know what I'm talking about? It's a montage. I went through and I pulled snippets out because what was the name of the show again? Couldn't hear you. The Link, okay. So as I was watching this show, you don't want to watch TV shows with me. I'm like one of the worst guys to watch shows with. I'm the guy that has like the foam brick, and I like want to throw the foam brick at the TV because I make weird noises when I'm watching the TV. What did you hear? Did you? My kids don't watch TV with me. All right, it's like, Dad, we're out of here. Okay, I can't help it, man. I make weird noises. They're saying these things, and I'm like, did you? Oh, they're leaving. What was the name of the show? Listen to this montage.
The team thinks they believed it could shed new light on human evolution. She seems to be a bit of both. This could be it. It could help science. Could everyone on the planet be connected to this amazing find? Could hold the clue to link Ida to man. Could reveal her ancient behavior. It could shine a light deeper into our history than ever before. Could show whether it's a link to man's early evolution. They may have found the first ever link to human beings.
Any words jump out at you? Did you catch all that? What was the name of the show? Not could be the link. Maybe the link. We think it's a link. The link. Guys, I'm winking these weird noises because like, you think I'm a jerk. That clip used to be twice as long. I cut it in half. I was literally watching and I made a checklist. How many times could, seems, we think, maybe, and I quit. I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, I got up to like, clink, clink, clink. I need to go back and do it. Young people, you want to do some research for me? I'll take your help. Watch this thing and just make a checklist because I have so much. I'm ADD. I just couldn't do it. Okay, but I'm telling you, it's a lot, guys. They're going to tell you it's the link, but then you watch the show. Remember, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to set aside our preconceived ideas and follow the observational evidence to its logical, testable conclusion. You Christians don't want to do that, really? You know what? I do. I do very strongly. This is the observational evidence right there. That's it. And look at what they have to say. Her anatomy has remarkable similarities to our own. We are in trouble because Ida looks like us. So, how does she look like us? Let him tell us.
When you look at the fossil for the first time and you get an impression of the completeness and you start to look at all the different details on this fossil, it's a quite short face. It's not like a very elongated face like you see in most lemurs. And that's comparable almost to us, because we got a very, very flat face.
Man, we are in trouble. Eda's got a flat face like ours. What in the world could we ever do? How about we set aside our preconceived ideas, go look at the observational evidence, push on the really cool interactive button, which, by the way, when you go to their website, you're not going to see this map anymore, by the way. I don't know why. They took it down, but I have video of it. Eda has a short face like ours, not the elongated face of a lemur. Remember, here's Carl, hands going up, teacher's head's going down. What, Carl? She looks like us? Inquiring minds want to know. So I took a lemur skull, or a human skull, and I compared a human skull to Eda. And then I took a lemur skull, and I compared a lemur skull to Eda, and sure enough, she looks like us. If there is anybody in here that has a relative with a face like that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Looks like us? Doesn't look a thing like us. This is their 3D reconstruction. Guys, that is lemur as lemur gets. There's nothing human with that. Oh, but there's more.
When you're looking at the whole body, you can look at the quite short arms, quite short legs. Not these very, very long legs and arms. Quite a small, compact body, like us.
Man, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. She's got short arms like us. She's got short legs like us. Let's push on the really cool interactive button and look at those arms. And man, sure enough, looky there. Eda does have 2 arms. And boy, they look exactly like a lemur. Don't trust me. Let's go back to the same program. Listen carefully.
Creating an accurate 3D model of Eda. Now the team can compare her skeletal anatomy with living animals in minute detail. Her body proportions and finger length suggest she's a lemur.
What was that? Her body proportions suggest she's a what? I thought she had short arms and short legs like us. By the way, not just once. Listen.
But her body proportions and the length of her fingers are like a lemur's.
That's called talking out of both sides of your mouth. Oh, by the way, Christian, you're being lied to right now. How? If you're going to get famous in the world of paleontology, you don't find monkey bones, you don't find human bones. Boring. You find ape-like ancestor. How do you know you have an ape-like ancestor? Something that looks like an ape but walks like a human. Monkeys are quadrupeds, knuckle draggers, right? Humans are, most of us, bipedal, walking up on 2 legs, right? Look at Eda. She's not fully upright, but she's not fully quadruped. She's 2/3 of the way upright. She fits the bill. She's a link. There's only one problem. Take a listen to this next clip here where they compare the skeletal structure of Eda with a chimpanzee. Chimpanzees are...
They are quadrupeds, walking on all 4s, as she would have done in the...
As who would have done? Who's she? Eda. So Eda was a... So why do you show her walking upright 2/3 of the way? You're being lied to. Young people, hear me, please. Satan is the father of lies. He doesn't have to play fair. He will say one thing and know that it's not true at all. There's no consequences to lying. You see, if I give bad information, why do I take this so seriously? Because if I give false information, I got a millstone waiting on me. So you better believe I study to make sure that I'm accurate. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to thank you. You show me where I'm wrong, I'm going to thank you. Because I don't want to give bad information. I know I'm wrong. I just don't know where it is. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. But I'm telling you this, Satan doesn't play fair. He will give you the images, showing it one way, knowing that it's not even that. Knowing that it's not even that. Oh, there's more.
You can see that it's got 5 fingers, of course, and nails on all the fingers. But also, the thumb is opposable like us. So it can grasp things, it can hold things the same way we do today. It's already there 47 million years ago. It's a proper hand to hold around things.
Man, we're done. Ida has 5 fingers like us. Ida has a thumb like us. Ida has certain undeniable human characteristics such as forward-facing eyes and an opposable thumb. What could we do? Well, let's go take a look at the observational evidence, set aside our preconceived idea, push on the cool little button there on the hand, and sure enough, looky there. Ida has 5 fingers. She's got a thumb, and she's got nails, and it looks exactly like... Anybody remember a quote? Her finger link suggests she's a... That's a lemur hand. This is a secular guy. He wrote this. But she had nails, Carl. Yeah, take a listen to what this one secular guy said. It's nice it has fingernails, something we have, as do most primates. But they cherry pick particular characters, and they've been criticized by other scientists for doing that. Yes, they have. We'll get to that part. Oh, but Carl, she's got hands like us, and look at those feet. You know I'm done. If anybody in your family has a foot like that, can hang from a tree by their toes, you win. I'm done. That is lemur as lemur gets. I mean, guys, there's nothing human about that. Oh, but Carl, she has forward-facing eyes. Yes, look at her eyes. The eyes have it. Her eyes face forward. But come on, Carl. Sir David, he's not going to lie to us. The link is no longer missing. He's spoken. Be patient. Give science time. They'll catch up to reality. When this television show came out, there were already reports that were coming out talking about this was not the link. I've been doing a timeline on how this whole thing started coming about. These bones were not discovered by this guy that you heard speaking in the whole TV show. They weren't discovered by him. They were discovered in 1983 in a pit in Germany. They sat in a private collection for over 20 years. They put them back together because they were split apart. They put them back together. Then the guy decided he wanted to sell them. He tried to sell them to the museums. The museums wouldn't pay the $1 million price tag. They found Jorn at a show in Hamburg, Germany, I believe it was. Hamburg or Frankfurt, but it was one of the two. He's in Germany at a fossil show. They get him. He pays, the last number I heard was $750,000 for this fossil. Okay? So he gets it. He studies it in secret. He builds his dream team, and they study it in secret and then release the findings. And boy, it was pure coincidence of what happened. But I'm telling you right now, they were chewing him up. Scientists divided on Ida as the missing link. Why Ida fossil is not the missing link? In order to establish that connection, Ida would have had to have had anthropoid-like features that evolved after anthropoids put away from lemurs and other early primates. Here last fails miserably, so Ida is not a missing link. Let me put it to you like this. When somebody like the MSNBC, when they call you out and they agree with you, that's a bad day. All right? This is not like some conservative source. Do you know what I'm saying to you? This is probably one of the far left sources that you're ever going to get. And the 3 people who read this report were shocked. Get it? MSNBC, 3 people. Come on, man, I'm throwing them low. Last night I threw them high, now I'm throwing them low. Missing link primate isn't a link after all. Remember Ida, the fossil discovery announced last May with its own book and TV documentary, a publicity blitz called it the link. That's exactly what it was. It was a publicity blitz. He released his findings and they just so happened to coincide. It was pure coincidence. To coincide with the 200th anniversary of the birth of Charles Darwin and the 150th anniversary of the publication of Origin of Species, it was pure chance. It was a publicity blitz. MSNBC even called him out. Experts protested that she wasn't even a close relative. They knew it wasn't a relative. The guy, this is what I've been finding on my timeline, the guy that you've been hearing speaking this whole time gave reports before the show was aired. He knew it wasn't a link. He knew it. But when he was on TV, paying big money, he would sure claim it. A new analysis says that it's actually as far removed from the monkey ape human ancestry as a primate can be. So when Mr. Crottenmaker wants to tell me that I'm not willing to set aside my preconceived ideas, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Because there's consequences if I don't do that. Satan doesn't play fair. Why was it so important? Listen to this quote. This is why it was so important. It's part of our evolution that's been hidden so far. It's been hidden because all the other specimens are so incomplete. They are so broken, there's almost nothing to study. That's why she was so important. But what about the big claim? This fossil is going to be pictured in the textbooks for the next 100 years. Yeah, because there's nothing better to replace it with. But what's the truth about it? Let the guy who's telling you on the TV show that it's the link, let him tell you what it was when he wasn't on TV. He lied, and that's a big claim. You never call somebody a liar unless you can back it up. He lied on that television program because he was getting paid big money to do it. Because listen to what he said in the...
We are, of course, not stating that this is our direct ancestor. That's too much.
Excuse me, what was the name of the show? The book? The shirt? The website? Thank you, making sure that you got that. Listen to one of the other Dream Team members.
It's not a direct ancestor of monkeys and humans, but researchers say it provides a good indication of what such an ancestor may have looked like.
It is a member of the ancestors. We could call it, if we would put it familiarly, we are not dealing with our grandmother, but perhaps with our grand-aunt.
Well, that's as clear as mud. Oh, what was I thinking? I mean, come on. How can you trust that book? We got 50 to 88% of the young people raised in the church are gone by the time they're age 18. What are they going to? If you can find the DVD, guess what? This is how they advertise. Scientists have discovered the oldest and most complete fossil of a human ancestor. They know it's not a human ancestor. They know it. By the way, this DVD is still being used in the schools to teach a generation that they evolved from an ape-like ancestor. It's still on display in the Denver Museum of Natural History as evidence that we evolved from an ape-like ancestor. The fossil's remarkable state of preservation allows an unprecedented glimpse into early human evolution. Excuse me, they know it's not in the human lineage, so how can it tell you anything about human evolution? Guys, we're being lied to. Listen to this. This is that Yorn guy. I just found this. Having previously experienced how the blogosphere had picked up on his work and seen Chinese dinosaur finds the object of bad early descriptions from blogging, Yorn decided to orchestrate launch of the fossil in a combined scientific and public event. Atlantic Productions, which had cooperated with Hurum on a program on the Predator X, a giant pliosaur from Svalbard, was brought in on the project in order to take stories straight to the masses in a way that would appeal to the average person, especially kids. You've got to understand, parents, that is where the world is going, is after that generation right there, which is why that's where my focus is. You speak too fast. Yes, I do. Because this generation thinks that way. Boom, boom, ADD, bing, bing. Hey, we're going to get from here to here, but we're not going in a straight line. I'm telling you that right now. It's the way they think. And the world understands that, and they go at them with the visuals. They understand the power of the visuals. Why do I want your email addresses? Because we're getting ready in December, we're going to give away a 20-week study. It's going to be an ebook. Now, those of you that aren't on Mac, I apologize. Somebody that's good at transferring or using apps to change ebook into a format that the PCs can do, please help me on this one. I don't understand all that. But we are creating a 20-week study with a 3 to 5 minute short video. Takes you as a leader 10 to 15 minutes to prepare for it, and then you do a study. We want parents and grandparents and leaders to start having conversations with this younger generation. The short videos that you see me playing, those types of things, that's what's going to be on there because you need that good visual to hook them to get a conversation going. And I'm giving it away free. It's going to be our Christmas gift to everybody. So I want your email address because I'm kicking it out to everybody. No strings attached. I'm not trying to sell you a thing. It's going to be totally free, 20-week study. Ebook. The videos will be embedded right on your iPad. If you got an iPad, you'll be able to use it like that. They're going after the kids. Why can't we? You make a mistake, you feel bad, right? Hey, I had a young person call me out. I was wrong. I apologized the next day to that camp group because he was right and I was wrong. No, I do not regret the media blitz at all. Oh, do you see he just admitted that it was a media blitz? He knew exactly what it was. Edith is still one of the most iconic fossils and the only complete primate fossil ever. Whether or not she is a direct ancestor, something we never claimed in the scientific paper, let me ask you a question. This is the ultimate in hypocrisy. How many read the scientific paper compared with how many watched the TV program? Oh, we didn't say that in the scientific paper because you had like 3 people read that. But the TV show is still being used with this younger generation to lie to them. She is undoubtedly the only fossil that tells us what an early primate really looked like. Other fossils are mostly fragments. Are you catching? Fragments. And 50 to 88% of the younger people are walking away. Any pop band is doing the same thing. Any athlete is doing the same thing. We have to start thinking the same way in science. Excuse me, I may not be very bright, but I was raised with science is not about marketing and pop bands. It's about knowledge. It's about truth. Not about marketing. It's changed. Mature folks, you got to understand this. The world doesn't play fair. They don't play the way that they did when we were raised. A lot of times the mature generation gets angry at me. You're telling us we did a bad job. We're losing all the kids, so we did a bad job. No, I'm telling you, the world has changed. And the way they're coming after this generation has changed. They're mean. They're nasty. They don't play fair. They lie. Bold-faced lies. What about this claim? This fossil rewrites our understanding of the evolution of primates. May I make a suggestion that if your position is so weak that every time you find a rock somewhere, it can change everything that you've known for 150 years, you don't have a very strong position. The science textbook that is used in the schools today, does it teach the same thing as 10 years ago? 20 years ago? 50 years ago? 100 years ago? Couldn't hear you. Does this teach the same thing as 10 years ago? 20 years ago? 50 years ago? 100 years ago? Then why are 50 to 88% of this generation walking away from this one thinking that this is fairy tale and fable, and they're going after a system that changes every time they find a new rock somewhere? We've not taught them how to think. We've not taught them to think critically. Oh, but Carl, they got Lucy. What you gonna do? She's a link. I mean, Lucy. Rock in the anthropological world, the second Lucy was discovered in southern Uganda. I'm not talking about that Lucy. I'm talking about this Lucy. Do you know who I'm talking about now? This is a link if you ever saw one. I mean, looky there. From the neck up, that is one ugly woman. From the neck down, I mean, when she had a bad hair day, it was all over her body. That's not a good thing for a lady. I'm just being honest. What you gonna do, Carl? I mean, our own president got to go touch one of the bones. It was a spiritual moment. Can we hum again? No, don't. It was a spiritual moment. He got to touch one of Lucy's bones. We all go back to Lucy. Seriously? I was speaking in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they brought the bones to Houston, Texas, the Houston Museum of Natural History. And this was the commercial that they made. They were driving kids 7 hours one way from Shreveport to Houston to take them into the museum so they could see Lucy's bones. And if you don't think that a museum isn't like a church, you don't go very often. It is just like a church. Lining those kids up. Look at these. Quiet. You're looking at Lucy. I'm like, dude, she's dead. You're not going to wake her up. I mean, according to you, she's been dead for 3.2 million years. Her story is your story. Well, I don't know what your story is, but I know what my story is. My story is not her story, and her story is not my story. But you better know her story, because her story is being used to lie to a generation. 2 very important points about Lucy. Number 1, she wasn't even a she. She was a he. German scientists studying the bones in 1996 figured out that she was a he, and they suggested a new name for her. They said they should call it Lucifer. I didn't suggest that. The German scientists did. But I did say amen. I almost went charismatic. Because this set of bones has been used more to lie to us than any other set of bones going. Point number 2. Oh, she's 40% complete. All we have are pieces and bone fragments, but Lucy, she's 40% complete. That's a lie. If you want to start counting bones, there are 206 bones in the adult human and ape body. You're not going to find 40%. If you make a copy of this bone, put it here, copy of this bone, put it over here, you'll come up to about 23 to maybe 28%. The majority of bones in the human and ape body are in the hands and the feet, okay? 27 bones in the hand alone. You see any hand bones? You see any foot bones? Don't look so closely. They're not there. Okay? She's not 40% complete. 23 to 28%. By the way, one of those bones, one of the backbones there, they just figured out this year that it doesn't even belong to her. It's a baboon bone. But for 40 years, that's been a part of, guys, this, I'm telling you, that's an actual account. It took 40 years to figure out that one of her backbones was a baboon bone? If the fragment really does prove to belong to a baboon, he says, we can cut Don Johansson and his colleagues some slack. Why? It's been jammed down how many generations now that she's a link, and now you're finding out that some of the bones don't even fit? Look, I want you to take a look at the skull. You see the pieces that they found? And by the way, I can show you 3 other depictions of the skull of Lucy that have different amounts of bones. I've pulled that out because I've gone long in other places. I'm trying to shorten up here. But just use those pictures, all right? There's the skull. They put it together. That's what it looked like. Listen to the guy that talked about what it looked like.
As we assemble larger pieces from smaller pieces, joining them together, we begin to get a fairly impressive picture of a species that has a very ape-like face with big protruding brow ridges. Very ape-like.
Very ape-like, right? I heard that correctly? Very ape-like. So when you go to the Smithsonian and you look at the reconstruction, it's got some human features going on there. That's not very ape-like. It's got ape feature, but it's got some human feature going on there. Why does it have human features? Because of the guy that put it together. I wanted to get a human soul into this ape-like face to indicate something about where he was headed. Excuse me. What was the actual evidence? The observational evidence. Set aside your preconceived ideas. What was the observational evidence? Very ape-like skull. So you know he's headed somewhere. To get a banana, that's about it. Now, take a look. Understand this. If evolution were true, common ancestor has both human and ape characteristics. And over time, slowly, gradually, some gradually became more ape-like, and some gradually became more human-like, okay? Are we on the same page? That's what the story teaches. So that means that these skulls that we find, that we put into this hierarchy, the family tree, some should be gradually turning more ape-like, some should gradually becoming more human-like. So let me show you some skulls here. Let me hear you grunt. Okay, you get one grunt. That's it. One grunt, and you got a grunt. I'm going to be pointing up here, and I'm not going to be able to see hands or anything, so you got to grunt for me. I'm going to point to the skulls, and I want you to tell me, by grunting, which one looks the most ape-like. You ready? Most ape-like. Most ape-like. Most ape-like. Most ape-like. Most ape-like. Most ape-like. I heard the same person grunt 3 times. You only get one grunt. One grunt. All right. I think this one won. Let's go. Most human-like. 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 Okay. Those 2 won. Guess what? You're all wrong. You're all wrong. Because every one of those are, quote-unquote, Lucy. Australopithecus afarensis. Every one of them. I've got 16 different skulls. Why do they look so different? When all you have are bone fragments, what do you fill in around the fragments with? What you think it looked like? Guys, Where's the evidence that this thing became human? Oh, it's in the bones. No, it's not. It's in the artwork. It's in the reconstructions. It's in the really cool pictures. I mean, take a look. Is that a proud woman or what? She should be proud. Look at the pecs on that dude. That man works out daily. I could only dream of having pecs like that. I mean, and look, here, you got, apes walking around like that with human heads. Hey, how y'all doing? Got any bananas up there? And look at the look on that child's face. Really? You want to see a future CEO of a Fortune 500 company? That's a man with a vision right there. What was the evidence? 7 bone fragments for the skull? And you got all these poses and... Here's the Smithsonian. By the way, I'm going to make a very provocative statement. Evolution is a racist philosophy. Evolution is a racist philosophy. I'm not saying that evolutionists are racist necessarily, because there's a lot of Christians who are racist. Let's be honest. The reason we see what we see going on in our world today, for the most part, is because the church has never handled that issue correctly. We are the only ones with an answer to that whole issue. There's one race, the human race. God created each and every one of us. In His image, we go back to one man and one woman. You can say that with your lips, but when your mind doesn't believe it, we've not lived it. Let's be honest. Sunday is still one of the most segregated days in our countries. The further back you go, the darker you get. You don't start getting lighter until you get smarter. Because evolution absolutely teaches, and I will show you the video if you want to see it tonight, young people especially. Ape-like creature evolves into the black man in Africa. Some of them eat fish, get smart, move north, and turn white. It's a racist philosophy. By the way, do you notice the eyes? Do apes have whites around their eyes? And the answer is no. You find a very ape-like skull, you stick a human eyeball into it, it automatically looks more human. Satan doesn't play fair. He's a liar. Let me take you to the video, just for the sake. By the way, you can do the same thing that I did with those skulls with the reconstructions. One of my assignments when I get in the classroom, as I send the kids home, your homework assignment tonight is this. You've got to go find 3 secular sources, no Christians, no creationists allowed, secular sources that show the reconstruction of Lucy, Australopithecus afarensis, 3 of them that reconstruct her and they agree with each other. I've got about 10 different reconstructions from an orangutan to a chimp to a human. Because when all you have are bones, you fill in the outside with what you think it looked like. And that's where the worldview comes in. But let me take you to the video that is used still in the schools to teach us, quote unquote, that we evolved from an ape-like ancestor. Don Johanson, the guy who discovered Lucy, did this. It's called In Search of Human Origins. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
We needed Owen Lovejoy's expertise again, because the evidence wasn't quite adding up. The knee looked human, but the shape of her hip didn't.
Oh, we're in trouble. The knee looked human, but the shape of her hip didn't. Look, if you're gonna get famous in the world of paleontology, you find something that looks like an ape and walks like a human. If you're gonna walk like a human, you have to have hips like a human, you gotta have knee like a human so that you can walk like a human. And so Don Johanson just got done saying that the knee looked human. Excuse me, set aside your preconceived idea, go look at the observational evidence. Did they even find a complete knee for Lucy? Don't trust me. Let me take you to a secular source. And they say this, the skeleton called Lucy does not have an intact knee. Then how do you know that it looked human? And then he said this, but the shape of her hip didn't. Now this is very important because if you're going to walk like a human, you most definitely have to have a hip shaped like a human. So how was her hip shaped?
Superficially, her hip resembled a chimpanzee's.
Ouch.
Which meant that Lucy couldn't possibly have walked like a modern human. But Lovejoy noticed something odd about the way the bones had been fossilized.
When I put the 2 parts of the pelvis together that we had, this part of the pelvis has pressed so hard and so completely into this one that it caused it to be broken into a series of individual pieces which were then fused together in later fossilization.
Okay, let's break this down. Her bones are broken after she died, then fused together in later fossilization. Are your bones fusing after you die? Your fusing days are done, man. I mean, that's just the way that it works. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but decay is what happens when you die. You're not fusing anymore. And then he says this, the hips look chimp. Now, that's a bad problem. That's a bad problem. How did she turn from human hip Lucy to chimp hip Lucy? I'll let him tell you.
After Lucy died, some of her bones lying in the mud must have been crushed or broken, perhaps by animals browsing at the lakeshore.
This has caused the two bones, in fact, to fit together so well that they're in an anatomically impossible position.
Okay, I love this. So how did human hip Lucy turn into chimp hip Lucy? It's very simple. You see, human hip Lucy was taking a stroll down by the lake, and she just happened to die. And she's laying there, and the flesh all rots off. And then a deer just happens to come along and steps on the hip bones, crushing the hip bones, and then the hip bones fuse back together, but now they're curved like a chimp and not like a human anymore. Nobody else have a problem with this? 50 to 88% of the young people are leaving this because you got a deer stepping on hip and crushing them. By the way, animal dies down by the lake. How long is that animal going to lay there for all the flesh to rot off? Or are scavengers going to come along and start eating that thing, pulling it apart, dragging the bones all over the place? The fact that you find all of those bones together in one place means that it got covered up rapidly by water. Do we have an explanation? Yes, but that's another talk. And then he goes on to say this. They fit together so well, they were in an anatomically impossible position. What does that mean? Well, they were shaped like a hip, so she couldn't walk like a human. If she was an ape, how should her hips be curved? Like an ape. Nothing anatomically impossible about that. Oh, it gets better.
The perfect fit was an illusion that made Lucy's hip bones seem to flare out like a chimp's. But all was not lost.
The perfect fit, did you catch that? Showed that she had hips like a, oh no, that doesn't work. By the way, smartphone, any smartphone? iPad people, smartphone, iPad. 5 people. Are you kidding me? There's more than 5 in here with a smartphone and an iPad. Take it out right now. Go to your app store. Download Reasons for Hope. Look for the asterisks. Because I want you to have these videos. They are in there. I want you to show them to your friends, young people. Lucy's an ancestor. Let me show you what they had to do to turn her from chimp hip to human hip. I want you to have the clips. They're in there. 10 hours of video. It's free. I'm not selling you. The perfect fit was an illusion. I told you I like illusions. But did you catch that last part? All was not lost. There's hope. You know what? I got hope. His name is Jesus. I admit it. But you know they also placed their hope somewhere? Do you know where they placed their hope? I got to show this to you. Now, I'm going to date myself here, but every time I show this clip, I think of the $6 million man. Anybody remember the $6 million man? I'm sorry. I'm of the age that Lee Majors in my day, he was the man. I'm telling you, he was the $6 million man. And he was married to Farrah Fawcett. Sorry. But as a teenage boy, he's the man. The intro. I don't have the voice. I got to play it for you. This is what always makes me think of $6 Million Man. This right here.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
I love that. I want you to see the technology that they used to rebuild Lucy. No. Do me a favor. If you're still awake, close your eyes, because I want you to hear the technology that they used to rebuild Lucy. It'll only be for about three seconds. I'll tell you when to open. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take a listen to the technology that was used. Ready? You can open your eyes.
Lovejoy decided he could restore the pelvis to its natural shape. He didn't want to tamper with the original, so he made a copy in plaster. He cut the damaged pieces out and put them back together the way they were before Lucy died. It was a tricky job, But after taking the kink out of the pelvis, it all fit together perfectly, like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. As a result, the angle of the hip looks nothing like a chimp's, but a lot like ours.
You fundamentalist hicks, how can you argue against evolution? We got Lucy. When you go to the Smithsonian, there's Lucy standing upright. Human hand and human feet. By the way, do you see those videos at the Smithsonian? No, not unless I'm there leading a tour, and now hopefully you. That's why I'm giving you the videos. They're on the app. I want you to lead a tour on these things. When he tells me, Mr. Cottonmaker tells me that I don't want to set aside my preconceived ideas, are you kidding me? Let me finish with this. Remember the Houston Museum of Natural Science? They brought the bones over. They made a study guide for all the teachers that were taking their students through there. Lucy's Legacy, The Hidden Treasures of Ethiopia. On page 20, this is what they wrote. For many years, Lucy was thought to be a direct human ancestor, but we now see her as belonging to a separate group of hominids from those which became our species, Homo sapien. What does that mean? Lucy is not in the human lineage, according to the people who brought the bones out of Africa and put them on display here in America. And I can give you many, 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 many other quotes. Lucy is no longer in the quote-unquote human lineage. One of the latest charts that I found is this one right here. This is the quote-unquote missing link between apes and humans. These are apes, these are humans. There's the missing link. What is that? Question mark and skinny line. This is Lucy. She's not even in the lineage anymore. By the way, young people, if you got some peers that challenge you on this, and you show them these charts, and you show them their charts, and you show them their video, what do you think? Might get them to think a little bit? You don't have to win an argument. I'm not here to win an argument. I'm here to challenge you to think. Because we got a generation that doesn't know how to critically think. And we've let the world lie to them for too long.